May the face of the Lord shine on you. May He shower His blessing on all that you do. May you never know anguish, sorrow, or strife. Dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of your life.
Howdy, I'm Sue Ellen Jackson, and this is Aware Central Texas, Effects of Child Abuse and Neglect. You know what? Kids don't come with instructions, and today we're going to be talking about parenting tips. And I hope you'll stay with us. It's going to be an interesting show. We're going to have some very special visitors, and I think you'll enjoy it. I would like for you to meet Mr. Fred Benford. He is one of our very special guests today. Fred, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
Fred and I met at the most unusual place. We were at what was that, City of Temples, some kind of a meeting. I don't even remember what the meeting was.
It was on housing or something like that.
Something about that. And we walked in, and it was one of those instant connections, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I said, why don't you come and volunteer for Aware Central Texas? And sure enough, you did. And that was what,
about 2 or 3 years ago.
2 or 3 years ago. And since then, he has been teaching parenting classes. So what we're going to talk about is what those parenting classes are like, and we're also going to talk about something a little more personal because, Fred, you were a single dad for many, many years,
Yes,
weren't you?
yes.
So, well, let's talk about the parenting classes first. Tell
Okay.
us about that.
In the parenting class, I try to do, it's a twofold teaching class, and I only have 4 weeks to try to get as much information to these young people as possible.
Now, these are, you have 4 separate classes.
Classes, right.
And how long do these classes last?
They are 2 hours.
So there's 4 2-hour classes.
Classes, right.
Yeah. And so with every class, it's a different
topic.
Right. What are the topics?
Some of the topics is I first try to incorporate the parents, because you have to kind of deal with these young parents.
Right.
And get them to understand some of the issues that they're dealing with, because it's so hard to teach them how to parent children, and at the same time they're dealing with their own issues.
Right.
So you have to kind of cover their issues as well as some of the parenting issues that they're dealing with.
Well, now that makes sense. What are some typical issues that you might run into with young parents?
Some of the typical issues that I run into is drug usage.
Dear. Yeah.
Some of them have anger issues.
Sure.
And the biggest thing that I see is not only the anger issues, it's just that they don't know. They haven't been taught.
You know, I hear that a lot. I think we all want to be good parents, but I think sometimes our lack of knowledge is what's hurting our children and hurting us.
And these are young people who are having children and trying to raise them, and they don't have a good understanding of what parenting really is.
Right. Do you think that partly that's because their parents didn't teach them how to be good parents?
You hit the nail on the head, because if you haven't been taught, how can you teach?
Thank you. If you don't know, how can you teach?
Teach, right.
How can you teach your children?
Right.
And that's the cycle. So you have a parent or parents that are making bad decisions in terms of raising their children because they don't know any better. And then that goes from generation to generation to generation. How many times have you heard people say, well, my mom did it, and I'm doing it, or my dad did it that way?
I can't even count the number of times I've heard that.
Right.
Because I hear that all the time. In every class we start, that's the way my mama did it. That's the way my daddy did it.
Right.
And the sad part about it is, most of the people I deal with are females because they are the only mother and daddy that some of these children have.
Yeah, I think what you said about and daddy
Yes.
is really critical because that's another problem that we have. That's a social problem.
It
that
is. It is.
Daddies aren't available, and it's not always the daddy's fault.
No,
Sometimes it's the mom's fault
Yes,
for not
and-
allowing it.
And because sometimes young people, I think what they do, they have children sometimes for the wrong reason.
Sure. What, for example, what would be a wrong reason?
The reason why I say that is for this simple reason. Some young ladies have children because they feel like that will help them keep a young man in their life. If I get pregnant and have a child, he'll stay with me.
Right.
And that's not always the case.
That, unfortunately, if that's
a sad
that's
situation.
most likely not going to work.
It's not,
Yeah.
because it's for the wrong reason.
Right.
And now you got this young child in your life. The man is gone. Now you have to deal with your issues as well as your child's issues. And then that's where the problem began.
And, you know, we're all human, and I can envision if I was a young mom and I thought that I was going to keep my man by having this baby, and I didn't, I might resent that baby.
And that's where child abuse come in too.
Right.
Because some of them do resent the child.
Right.
And for quite a few years working on a psychiatric unit, I've seen this, where the parent began to resent the child, and the child become the whipping boy for daddy, because daddy's not there. I have to take the abuse. And the sad part about it is the child didn't ask to come.
Right.
And he or she is just came into the world because of parents, and now they have to be the whipping boy.
Yeah.
And
that's
that's
so
sad.
hard to see.
It's
I
bad.
mean, it's hard to, it's just unthinkable to grow up in that type of environment, and yet so many children do.
And one other thing I'd like to say too, I hate to see parents abusing children. And these children, like I said, they didn't ask to come. They're abused at home. And most children, when they are abused at home, their self-esteem is
Oh, yeah.
zero.
Parents are telling them it's
not
your
gonna-
fault and you're
yeah,
not
right.
worth anything.
Then they go to school. They become abused at school because they have no way of standing up for themselves because
Right.
their self-esteem is so low.
Right.
And so the children just catch it from home to school and throughout life.
Fred, can you believe it? We're about to run out of time, but I did want to mention something that is really kind of special.
Okay.
And that's the fact that you raised a remarkable young man on your own. And I just want to say bravo.
Thank you.
And if you were going to talk to our folks and encourage them with parenting, what tips would you give them? What would you say to that single dad out there trying to raise his kids, or that single mom out there trying to raise her kids, or even mom and dad are here together? What would you tell
The
them?
biggest thing that I would say to them is to, first of all, show that child love, because children, that's all they want is your time. And they want to know that they're loved. They want to know that there are boundaries set. You have to learn how to set boundaries with the children. With
Right.
my son, I told my son, son, I can't leave you money and wealth and all this stuff, but I do want to leave you with some values in life.
Right.
And the first thing that I told him is, I want to leave you with God in your life.
Amen.
And with God in your life, and as the head, and you get an education, I said, you can make it in life. And so far, he's been able to do that.
He is a remarkable young man,
Yes.
very nice guy.
Yes.
You know, there's the scenario of the mama bird in the nest,
Yes.
and if you really watch this, you know that the mama bird pushes the baby out of the nest, and I think our society we've kind of gotten it backwards. I think that we, for some reason, especially our men, we tend to try to control them and keep them close to us. And if you're doing that, don't do it.
No.
It's our job as parents to encourage our children to become independent.
Right.
So from the day they're born, it's heartbreaking,
Yes.
but really we have to begin that process to cause them to become independent. And
That's
when
right.
they reach that 18 or 19 years of age, that they are prepared to go away from home and be successful. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was in college, you go for several years and you watch that freshman class come in. And when I was in school, half of those kids would flunk out of the first quarter of college because they're not prepared. So you raised your son to be a man.
That's right. And
You
I
know.
and I also raised him just like I told him a long time ago. I said, I'm not raising you to live with me because one
Right.
day I won't be here.
Right.
You got to know how to navigate this journey of life on your own.
Right.
And so that's what I wanted him to understand and try to get that's why I wanted to teach him those values and to think for himself.
Well, I think you should be proud. I know you are. He is a lovely young man.
Well, thank you.
You've done a good job with him. Fred, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having
We're
me.
going to take a look at two young ladies, very young, 9 and 10 years old, who are going to give us information about what they think good parents and bad parents are.
I think that our parents love us, and we know that because they always are spending time with us and disciplining us, and because they want us to learn.
I think they love us because our dad, he prays for us before we go to school, and he prays for us at night. And our mother, she cooks good foods, and she lets us eat lots of fruits and veggies.
And our dad often takes us on special occasions where we get to go and spend just a day with him because we don't often get to see him. They're teaching us so that we can become better parents and better kids and so that our kids can grow up to be good like our parents are teaching us. That a bad parent is someone who let their kids do anything they want, like anything at all, because that's not going to teach them anything.
And if a bad parent is a parent that ignores even the bad things that they do, and they don't even do anything about it.
And if they just don't really care about the kid at all, like they just feel better if the kid wasn't there at all.
And the mother and father, our parents don't care like that. They love us and spend time with us, and they punish us whenever we do something bad.
Like our mom, our birth mother, she didn't know how to take care of a kid, so she left us with our dad.
And she was here for a few months, and
we know that she loves us, but she just doesn't know how to take care of us, or didn't, at least.
Right now she is in
Iraq.
No, not Iraq.
Huh?
She's not in Iraq.
Yes, she is. That's where she works.
Not Iraq. She's on the other side of the world.
That's Iraq.
No, it isn't. It's Afghanistan.
Yeah, that's it. And she has a job there, and it's really hard because she's far away, and it's hard, and she's far away. We know that she loves us, but because she loved us enough to let us, that she knew that
the right thing was to be with our father,
where we could be better off, and we know that she loved us because she did that for us.
Thank you, Sarah and Salem. That was very enlightening. And by the way, we didn't get to mention this, but I would like to let y'all know that they are both honor roll students in school. I have with me your doctor, Brian Wortham. You are a professor at
Texas A&M.
That's it's recently had a name change, and so I
Yeah, it
always
used
sort
to be
of
Tarleton.
right,
Yeah.
but now it's Central Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, Central Texas.
Okay, Central Texas A&M, Central Texas.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Brian, thank you for being here. I appreciate it so much.
No problem.
I met Brian probably 3 years ago, maybe
It's been about
3
3
and a
years,
half or
yeah.
4. And actually, you found us. Is that how that works?
Yeah, yeah.
He had moved into the area, and he was a college professor, university professor, and he was looking for a way to work with the mission of preventing abuse and neglect. So for a season, you were a parenting instructor as well, and then you came to serve on our board, so you're also working with us in more of a leadership capacity now. And also, you're a daddy.
Yes,
So,
2 wonderful kids.
Yes, 2 beautiful, darling little girl and little
Yeah.
boy. So they're precious. Okay, well, we're talking about parenting. And let's start with what you saw when you were teaching folks that were really required to take parenting classes. Now, why were they required to take parenting classes? Did we ever know, or?
They were usually pretty straightforward and upfront about it.
Right.
Usually, something happened at home. They got involved with Child Protective Services, and they needed to take a class to sort of become educated with how to deal with their kids.
Right. So routinely, these are folks that are in your class that are more or less being required to go to the class, unfortunately, because we would like to see everybody come to these parenting classes. And they're neat because what I'm hearing is that actually it's peer support. You know, they get in there and they talk and they realize, hey, I'm not the only parent in the world that doesn't have all the answers, and you know, I'm learning better ways to be a parent.
Yeah.
And hey, this lady she's a mommy and she's struggling too. So I'm not the Lone Ranger. It seems to really help.
Yeah, it's good to do it in a group format because, you know, I can be up there and teach, but it's what you said. It's better that they hear it from themselves and sort of feel that, oh yeah, they're not alone.
Right.
They can give each other tips, which works well.
If you were going to make a generic parenting tip, or maybe 3 generic parenting tips, what would you offer?
Well, I think the 2 girls, they should be running the groups because their advice was perfect. That's exactly what I would tell parents. Is one, that positive attention. I think it's so easy when you're at home to get, you know, as a busy parent, get involved and do your own thing and watch TV, cook dinner, and, you know, when the kids are sitting there and they're playing well, they're not causing a problem, we tend to sometimes ignore them because they're not creating a problem. And then the minute they mess up, that's when we sort of give them attention. So a lot of parents are only giving a lot of their kids attention when they mess up. And I say, well, one of the things you need to do is just reverse that. So give them attention when they're sitting there playing, you know. Say,
I love that.
You know, good job. You know, I appreciate you sitting there and doing what you need to be doing. And, and kids love that positive attention versus you know, mom and dad are talking to me now because I messed up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it teaches them that if I act out, I'll get attention.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow. It really does, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think we do things. If we're being ignored, we're going to do something to get us attention. And when I used to work as a counselor with adolescents, and I would see that all the time.
Sure. That's what they learn. Okay. So here's parenting tip number 1. Instead of giving your children attention when they're acting like little donkeys, running amok, when they're sitting quietly doing their homework, or when they're attending to the task at hand, give them praise and give them attention for that. And don't save your attention for when you're having to redirect or correct or punish or scream at them. All right, that's a good tip. That's actually a really good idea.
Okay.
What else?
You know, one of the classes I teach is human development, and I think it's so important that parents understand that their kids grow up. You know, one of the one of the things I see all the time is, you know, the kids are not having any problems. All of a sudden they hit 6th, 7th grade, and there's issues, and the parents don't know what to do. It's like they come to me and they're like, my kid's a totally different person. What's going on? I'm like, well, they hit puberty, you know, they got the hormones. So I think it's really important that the parents understand that you have to treat your kids differently as they get older. You can't treat a 4-year-old the same way as you treat a 10-year-old. And a lot of parents just don't know that.
That is such a good tip. Okay, here's tip number 2. This is so true. When your children start changing and going through natural development and start going from little children to temperamental, hormonal tweens and teenagers, just recognize the fact that that's part of their natural development. You don't have to lose your mind. And here again, we were talking with Fred earlier, you know, Fred Benford. It's not our job to keep our children children.
Yeah.
It's our job to push them out of the nest and encourage them to become strong, independent adults.
Definitely. Yeah.
Good tip.
Okay.
Yep.
Probably another one that I have would be, and I use my kids for this one. Chase is 4, Chloe's 1, and they could not be more different. And I think it's important that parents understand that kids are, you know, we talk about temperament, sort of their personality. They're sort of born with certain personalities. You know, we were at the pool the other day, and Chase he's sort of my drama queen. He doesn't like to, you know, so he wouldn't put his head under the water. It's like, no, I can't do it. And then Chloe at 1 year, you know, she's going under the water already.
Just swimming like a little dolphin.
And I see a lot of parents get frustrated. Well, why can't you be more like your sister? Or why can't you be more like your brother? I'm like, well, they're born different, even though they came from the same parents.
Right.
Their personalities can be very different. You sort of have to appreciate those differences instead of look for, you know,
wow. Good point. I love it. Okay, here's tip number 3. Your children are different people. One child may react to something differently from another. Don't compare them. Celebrate their differences. Celebrate the fact that one child is different from the other. You know, I've got another example for that. We have lots of grandkids. I had the opportunity to go to Busch Gardens with a couple of them once, and the parents said, "Come on, get in the roller coaster thing." And so one child got in the very, very front, and the other child, the smaller child, hopped in with one of the parents. Well, in fact, the child that got in the very, very front was somebody that doesn't like all that roly stuff, and the one in the back that was with the parent was you know. And it's one of our family stories because the older child, when she finally got off the roller coaster, she was white as a sheet and her lips were blue. She probably didn't breathe the whole time. And the other one, the littler one, was just like, that was so fun.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. And we as a family, we laughingly share that story, but it's not to criticize the older child for not liking roller coasters. She'll say, I don't do roller coasters. You know, we all laugh about it. But I can see, based on what you're saying, that easily we could have turned that into Sarah's a scaredy pants, you know, and we didn't do that.
That's
you
great,
know, so 3 good tips. Now, you also are a single dad, and that can be very challenging. So how do you manage that? You're a professor, you run a department, and you have these 2 little darling children. How do you manage that, Brian?
Keep myself busy. But basically, the biggest thing is my ex-wife and I, we're communicate really well still. So I mean, I think a lot of parents that I see, you know, because they're so angry at each other, they sort of put their kids in the middle.
Right.
And the kids sort of suffer that. So I think, I mean, I know we already talked about tips, but that's one thing that when I need someone to babysit, I can call her. When she needs someone to babysit, she can call me. So even though we're not together anymore, we're still working as a team for the kids.
That is so
I think
important.
that's vital to any kind of parent. You know.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. If you, okay, here's a free extra tip. It's a bonus. You're getting a bonus. If you are going through a divorce, or if you're a single parent, please try to get along with a parent. Don't put the kids in the middle. That is so hurtful. And the kids take that with them for the rest of their life, and I'm sure it affects their ability to have relationships of their own. So please rethink that. Don't put yourself before your kids in that situation. Work with that ex-spouse and together try to raise these kids with harmony and cooperation between the two of you. Don't blame your children for becoming divorced. It's such a hurtful, painful time, but really, please put your children first in those situations. I've seen that so much, and I know you have too, where the children are just ripped apart. They first they have the guilt. If I was a better kid. Secondly, they're like, I like one parent more than the other, kind of a thing. It just it's a downward spiral, and it actually serves no good purpose.
Yeah, never.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you get to see your kids?
Oh, we share custody 50-50, so they're
Right.
with me 50% of the time, and the mom 50% of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm still pretty active in their life.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, we've run out of time. Brian,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Well, thanks for
I
having
do
me.
appreciate you, and I hope you've enjoyed this show. We've talked a lot about parenting, and you know, one thing we haven't mentioned is that parenting is not easy. I'd like to encourage you as parents, even when and I have adult children, even as parents of adult children, it's hard not to want to scoop them back up and fix things for them. But be a good parent. Teach your children how to be strong, independent adults. And thank you for joining us.
May the face of the Lord shine on you. May He shower His blessing on all that you do. May you never know anguish, sorrow, or strife. Dwell in the house of the Lord.